How many of you remember Mr. Miyagi? You know, wax on, wax off, paint the fence, sand the floor. We forget sometimes how those lessons in life actually came to us. But if you remember that movie, then you remember a lesson that was learned in a way that nobody expected the lesson to be learned. We thought one thing was being taught, but a lot more things were being taught along the way. And I think today, when we think about the word hard work or the phrase hard work, there's a lot more behind it than what we really expect it to mean. There's a lot more substance behind the meaning hard work. And as leaders, part of our role as leaders is to demonstrate the value of hard work, to teach the value of hard work, and to spread the lessons of the value of hard work. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. When I ask the question, what does hard work mean to you? Some people immediately want to give a definition of hard work. They want to explain what it means to work hard. And as you've heard me illustrate before, there's a difference between working hard and working smart and then also working right. The concept of hard work shouldn't be just a definition of the bust and the grind and the grit and the sweat, all the hard toil that it takes to accomplish a task. But that often is the definition of hard work, and for some people, that's where the definition of hard work stops. But sometimes hard work is more on the intellectual side. It looks from the outside like sitting in a chair, staring off into space, or taking a book and sitting down with a cup of coffee and a book for hours at a time, or writing page upon page upon page upon page. And I can promise you, having done both, the manual labor of being a firefighter, or the manual labor in my younger years of hauling hay and planting fence posts, I've done the manual labor side, and I've also done the mentally taxing side of creating content, writing blog posts and documentation and writing books and doing the research to write the book and writing speeches for different levels of educated or informed people. And I can tell you from my own experience, the brain work is a lot more taxing. What looks from the outside like you're not doing anything is a lot harder sometimes than the physical manual labor that is apparent that you're doing something complicated. The challenge is a lot of people kind of mimic the hard work that would be the brain work, and they use that mimicry to do nothing. It's idle time. Now, there's nothing wrong with idle time. Idle time is a good thing. Just remember that when you think about the first Karate Kid, he said, I want you to teach me to fight. And the kid had a different agenda for learning to fight. It was to defend himself, to get revenge on the bullies. But Mr. Miyagi took him in and began to teach him, and he taught him stuff like paint the fence. And the young man was so frustrated with painting the fence. He said, I came to learn to fight. Why am I painting the fence? And then he taught him to wax the car. Wax goes on one way, wax goes off the other way. Wax goes on with one hand, wax goes off with the other hand. Wax on, wax off. And he never could understand why he was doing these stupid motions. Move your wrist when you paint the fence. Sand the floor. And all the things that he taught him to do seemed to be pointless. See, I think we find ourselves in a place where sometimes leadership, the lessons of leadership, are deeply disguised in the everyday activities that we do, the everyday relationships, the everyday engagements. The things that seem mundane are great teaching opportunities. And the hard work of leadership sometimes looks like that assignment that we delegate that appears to have no purpose. It requires a lot of forethought. It requires a lot of intention blended together with some instinct to be able to see someone who, well, they've got a lesson that needs to be learned. They've got an idea or a concept that's in error. They've demonstrated to you as their leader that Well, they've got some ideas all wrong, and you've heard them speak about them, or you've watched them do things inappropriately or incorrectly, and they need to be changed or challenged in order to get a new idea. But if you were to come right out to them and say, stop doing it like that, start doing it like this, well, they may follow your instruction for the moment, but they haven't necessarily learned the lesson. The hard work for the leader is crafting intentionally, what process will I walk them through? What demonstration could I give them whereby they learn the lesson, but they learn the lesson in such a way that they now own it. It's their lesson. They've experienced the pros and the cons. They've experienced doing it right as well as having done it wrong in the past. And now they have the advantage of both sides of that. They've seen the task in a proper way and an improper way. I'll give you an example. When backing a trailer, it takes some experience to back a trailer, because when you turn the steering wheel on the towing vehicle one direction, the end of the trailer goes the other direction than what you think it will. Now, literally, if you turn your wheels to the right, the tip of the trailer tends to follow the path of the wheels because you're creating a double arch. After a few minutes of doing that, you'll figure that out. But how many times can you tell somebody, no, turn the wheel the other way. No, turn the wheel the other way. I watch people do this thing. And trust me, when you're looking in the mirror, this is not helpful. This is not a good spotter. But I watched a young man just the other day. We had asked him to spot a vehicle that was backing in. Now, my boys, since they were 5 or 6 years old, had been taught how to spot a vehicle. The first thing you have to know when you're spotting someone else who's backing in a vehicle is that you stand where their mirror is so that you can look them in the mirror. But you also need to stand in a spot where you can see all of the things that might be in their way, that they might hit. And part of your responsibility as a spotter is to not let anybody walk behind the moving vehicle that may not realize that it's moving. Maybe they're oblivious, maybe they don't see it moving, or maybe they're just paying attention to their phone and not to the vehicle. That's the job of the spotter. Don't let them run over anything or anyone in the process of putting the vehicle where it's supposed to go. Part of that is also knowing where the vehicle is going. I watched a spotter walk to the front of the vehicle and stand in the driveway while watching the vehicle back into a spot. First, though, he walked straight out to the side of the vehicle so he could have a full view of everything, but he couldn't be seen by anybody. He was in a blind spot of the driver, had no idea where the mirror was. And so how do you scold that person? How do you correct that person? Well, that's the hard work of leadership. The hard work of leadership isn't get out and spot the vehicle yourself. It's how do you go through the process of instructing this young person, this never been trained how to spot a vehicle before, how to spot the vehicle. Now, that's just a really small illustration. It might be the same in accounting. It might be the same in sales. You can watch them make mistakes in sales. You can let them make mistakes in sales. You can even let a customer walk away, and obviously they're going to learn some lessons from that. But part of the job as a leader is the hard work of crafting the lesson in such a way that they get to see the benefit of the lesson as well as contrast that benefit to the cost of the mistakes they've made in the past. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to let everybody consequence to the point of destruction, or that you've got to let everybody consequence until the price to be paid is so high that it can't be paid. But sometimes the mistakes that are made by ignorance or laziness, those are the best lessons that you could possibly craft for somebody. I challenge you as leaders to take the time to do the homework, do the hard part, do the hard work of leadership. Read some more books, study some more behaviors, understand the way that people think, find the motivations that they have individually. Do what doesn't look to a lot of people like work, thinking. Take the time to think through the process. Think through all of the people that you work with and work for, the people on your team, and ask yourself, what would improve their life skills? What would improve their opportunity? What would give them a chance to move to the next level? And how could I facilitate them learning that? It doesn't have to be a classroom. It doesn't have to be a lecture. It doesn't have to be a test. But an opportunity for them to be exposed to the next level of understanding. Those are valuable lessons. The hard work of leadership doesn't look like grab a post hole digger. Sometimes it does. But a lot of times the hard work of leadership looks like taking the time to analyze, to think through every individual on your team and ask yourself, what lessons could they learn that would make their life better? And how can I facilitate them learning that lesson without destroying their will or destroying their hope? If you're a good leader, a leader who cares about their people, a leader who wants to add value to their people, then I challenge you to do the hard work of leadership. Take the time on your own to study your people and study their habits, study their behavior, and what can make them better. And that will make you a better and more influential leader. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.